Your LPP stands for linear programming problem. And then we went into your mathematical formulation of your LPP, graphical method, how to solve it. For two variables means you'll be using your graphical method. More than two variables means you'll be using your simplex method. So your simplex method, I've given you the procedure up to step 5. Okay, your step 1 is to see whether your objective function is maximization or minimization. Okay, that would be your first step. If it is maximization, you will continue with the problem. If it is minimization, what you do is you will multiply it with a minus sign. Okay, your z function, you will multiply it with your minus sign, and then you'll make it into maximization problem. So that will be your step 1. Your step 2 will be what you'll have to do. Yes, step 2, you'll have to see your BIs are positive. Okay, if your BIs are not positive, what you do, you will multiply on both the sides by minus 1. So that will be your step 2. Okay, your step 3 is you're introducing your slack variable. So how many ever inequality constraints has been given, accordingly you will introduce your slack variables like S1, S2 and so on. Okay, that will be your third step. After introducing a third step, you'll have to make it to a standard form. Okay, that after making it to a standard form, you'll go into your step 4, which is the table format. The table format, I have drawn it and shown you the same way you have to draw it. Okay, in that you have to find out what is your CJ, what is your CB, YB, XB, and so on, and your basic variables and your variables, given variables. Okay, you will write it down in that. Then you will find out your ZJ minus CJ. This Zj minus Cj, if it is greater than or equal to 0, you will find out the optimal solution. If it is less than 0, then what you have to do, you go into your step 6. Okay. Now I will start with your step 6. Okay. So only till step 5 we
both
have
visible,
written it.
ma'am.
Board is not visible.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
For everyone, is it like that?
Spotlight spotlight for another ma'am daily and they or slip 3
Wait, I will again do it because without the spotlight, you will see your friends video coming in. Without the spotlight. Wait, I will just spotlight it again. See now?
Okay,
yes,
ma'am.
Yeah. Okay. So take your RMT notebook and start writing. Put today's date. Okay, what is today's date? 21/1/22. Put today's date and start writing. Okay. So we are finished with your step 5. We will go on to step 6. Okay, write it as step 6. This is your step 6 for your procedure in your simplex method. Okay. So write it down. The entering variable. Step 6 will be, I will divide it. Write it. The entering variable. The entering variable is the non-basic variable. The non-basic variable corresponding to the most negative value. Corresponding to the most negative value. Your most negative value in your Zj minus Cj. Okay. Your Zj minus Cj. You'll be finding out this only. You'll see in your step 6 your most negative value. Okay. You'll see your most negative value. And which is, you'll see it in your Zj minus Cj and take that value. Okay. Write it down. You will take your most negative value of Zj minus Cj. This entering excuse me, sorry. The entering variable column entering variable column is called the pivot column, or pivot column, or key column, or called the key column. When you do the problem, I will explain it, okay? So you will see the most negative value in the Zj minus Cj, okay? In that question, see the most negative value, and in that Zj minus Cj, you'll find out. And wherever that value you're taken, no, that corresponding column is called the pivot column or your key column. Okay, now in your tabular column, you will find out your Zj minus Cj. Okay, somewhere you're getting a most negative value. That value, the corresponding column, okay, wherever it is got, okay, that will become the entering variable. So from which column you're taking, that column, that variable will become the entering variable. Okay, when you do the problem, you will understand. Now that is your step 6. Okay, that is called your pivot column or your key column. That is called your pivot column or your key column. So this is your step 6. Write your step 6. Next will be your step 7. So in your step 6, this is you can write it in brackets to find the entering variable. To find entering variable. That is your step 6. Okay. Whereas in your step 7, you're gonna find out the leaving variable. Okay, in your step 7, you're gonna find out your leaving variable. Then write in brackets leaving variable. You can write in brackets to find leaving variable. Find the leaving variable. To find the leaving variable, under that you write compute the ratio. Yes, step 7. You're gonna compute the ratio. Ratio theta is equal to minimum of xb by AIR, where your AIR will be always greater than 0. Should be greater than 0. Okay, it cannot be negative value. If it has got negative value, you cannot do it. Only when it is positive, you can find out your min ratio. Okay, so this will be your step 7. Right? Compute the ratio. Write this ratio. Go to see now. Okay, here this is the entering variable. Here it will be the leaving variable. Okay, the leaving variable. Here the entering variable column. Okay, that's the leaving variable row. That leaving variable row is called the pivot row. Pivot row, or it is also called as key pivot row or key row or pivot equation. Key row is also called as key row or your pivot equation. So in your step 6, you will be finding out the entering variable. In your step 7, you will be finding out your leaving variable. And then you'll have to find out the intersection. The intersection of the pivot column and yes, students, are you able to hear me? Yes, someone respond.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
You're able to see the screen. Huh?
Yes, ma'am.
But yeah, I'm not able to. But you are able to see the screen, isn't it? Are you able to see? I'm not able to see. You're able to see the screen, everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So what you have to do, the intersection of the pivot column and the pivot row is called the pivot element. Called the pivot element or key element. You are able to see till down key element. These are all very important for your MCQ pattern. If at all it is MCQ pattern, these are all very important. The intersection point of your pivot column and your pivot row will be called as your pivot element or your key element. Okay, the leaving variable is called your pivot row or your key row or your pivot equation. So your entering variable is called your pivot column or your key column. All these things you'll have to know. Okay, so this is your step 6, this is your step 7. So your step 6 is you're finding out your entering variable. In your step 7, you're finding out your leaving variable. After finding out this pivot element, you have to find out your equation. That will become your step 8. Have you all finished with your step 6? Finished? We will go on to step 8. Yeah. So we will go on to step 8. So in your step 8, what you'll have to do is you will drop the leaving variable. So that leaving variable, whatever it is, you will leave that drop the leaving variable. Whatever leaving variable it is, you will drop it. Okay, you will not take that leaving variable and introduce the entering variable and introduce the entering variable and introduce the entering variable along with its associated value, along with its associated value in the CB column along with its associated value in CB column. So in this step 8 itself, we have two equations. You'll find out new pivot equation. Okay, this new pivot equation will be equal to your whole pivot equation will be whole pivot equation divided by your pivot element. This will be the formula to find out your new pivot equation. Okay, this new pivot equation is nothing but whatever is entering inside. No, your one variable will go and one variable will come inside. Okay, for that you have to find out your new pivot equation. So that is your new pivot equation, which is equal to your old pivot equation divided by pivot element. And here itself you have another one. You will find out your equation for all other terms. Okay, the second one will be new equation. You're going to find out for all other equations. So that will be new equation is equal to whatever equation you're going to find out, that equation you will write, your old equation minus, it will be corresponding. Have you all finished with your seventh step?
Yes, ma'am.
I will write it that way. So the second subdivision here itself, okay? You're going to find out for all other equation, it will be your new equation is equal to your old equation minus your corresponding column coefficient. It will be corresponding column coefficient everyone is able to see the board into your new pivot equation, because I am not able to see the board. I'm actually not able to. I'm very sorry because the cell fell down. I think now you're able to see. Yeah, so your first equation in your step 8, what you'll have to find out is you'll have to find out your new pivot equation, which will be old pivot equation by your pivot element. I told you know what is your pivot element. Pivot element is the intersecting value where your pivot column and your pivot row will intersect in one point. That point you will take it as your pivot element. So you will divide it with that and get your new pivot equation. After that, you have to find out your new equation for all other terms. Okay, for all other equations. So that will be old equation minus your corresponding column coefficient into your pivot element. New pivot equation. That is your new pivot equation, whatever you have found out, that you will multiply it with that corresponding column coefficient. So that will be your step 8. Okay, your step 9 will be, that will be your last procedure. Your step 9 will be you have to find out your Zj minus Cj. Okay, you'll find out your Zj minus Cj. That also you'll find out with the same formula. Okay, this new equation you'll find out for your Zj minus Cj. And if your Zj minus Cj is greater than or equal to 0, then the feasible solution is optimal. Okay, the feasible solution is optimal. And you can stop with it. Okay, So whatever you've got is your optimal solution. So you can stop with the iteration. If at all it is Zj minus Cj is less than 0, what you do is again you'll have to follow up the procedure from your step 6. Okay, you have to follow up from your step 6. What is your step 6? You'll have to find out your entering variable. You have to find out your leaving variable. After that, you have to find out your pivot element, find out your new equation, all those things. And again, you have to find out whether your Zj minus Cj is greater than or equal to 0. If it is less than 0, your feasible solution is not optimal. Your feasible solution is not optimal. And again, you'll have to repeat it from step 6. Repeat the procedure from step 6. Okay, so this is your procedure for your simplex method. Okay, so your first step is to see whether your objective function is maximization or minimization. Okay, that will be your first step. If it is maximization, you can continue with the problem. If it is minimization, you have to multiply it with your minus sign and make it to maximization. So that will be your first step. Second step is to see in your constraint, all your BIs are positive. If they are not positive, what do? You multiply on both the sides by minus 1. Okay, that will be your step 2. Step 3 is introducing of your slack variables or your surplus variables. Since it is maximization, we will be doing only your slack variables. So you will be introducing only your slack variables S1, S2 and so on. So how many ever inequality constraints are there, you will introduce your slack variables. That will be your third step. So in your third step, your canonical form into standard form, you're changing it. Okay, that will be your step 3. Step 4 is to put out your table format and see your table. Okay, in your table format, in the Zj minus Cj, there itself you're directly getting greater than or equal to 0 means that itself is your feasible solution, which is optimal. If at all it is becoming less than 0, what you have to do is you have to go into step 6. In your step 6, what you'll have to do, you'll see your most negative value. That most negative value from which column it has been coming, you'll have to see. That column is called as your pivot column or your key column. Okay. Next, step 7. Step 7, how you'll have to find out is you have to find out your theta. That is your ratio you'll have to find. Your ratio is equal to your minimum value you have to see. Whichever is your minimum value, that row you will take. So that row is your pivot row or your key row or your pivot equation. Okay. The intersecting point of your pivot column and your pivot row will become your pivot element. Okay, after finding out your pivot element, what you have to do is you have to find out your new pivot equation. For your new pivot equation, which will be whole pivot equation by your pivot element. Okay, and all other equations also you have to find out. It is nothing but old equation minus your corresponding column coefficient into your new pivot equation. So after doing that, you will have to do it for your Zj minus Cj also. If it is greater than or equal to 0, that whatever you found out is optimal. If it is again, if you're getting a negative value, you will do it from your steps. Did you understand the procedure? So we will do one problem, you will understand. Okay. In your when you're writing this procedure, you have got any doubts, you ask me now. Otherwise, I will rub it and we will start with the problem. You understood? Okay, ma. So I will rub it and we will do a problem. Write a question. Using simplex method, call this following LPP. Using simplex method, solve the LPP or solve the following LPP. Okay, solve the LPP. So your given question is maximize Z is equal to 4x1 plus 10x2 subject to the constraints 2x1 plus x2 less than or equal to 50. 2x1 plus 5x2 less than or equal to 100. 2x1 plus 3x2 less than or equal to 90. Where your x1 and your x2 is greater than or equal to 0. Okay, where your x1 and your x2 is greater than or equal to 0. Okay. So now listen, then you can write it down. You understand the problem, okay, and then you can start writing. So this is your given question. Your first step is to see whether it is maximization or minimization. Since the given problem is maximization, your first step is satisfied. Next, you'll have to see your second condition. All your BI's values. Your BI values are these values, which are all positive, so nothing to do with that also. So that step 2 is also got over. Then we go on to step 3. We have to introduce your slack variables. To introduce your slack variables, you'll have to see how many inequality constraints are there. So how many inequality constraints are there? 1, 2, and 3. Okay, 3 inequality constraints are there. And so you'll have to introduce 3 slack variables. So first you write your solution, convert, write it down, convert the inequality constraints, convert the inequality constraints into equality constraints by introducing slack variables. Okay, so that will be your first step. Okay, now this will be a step 3 according to the procedure. Okay, so you're gonna make your inequality constraints as equality constraints by introducing your slack variables. Your slack variables here, if you see, you have 3 constraints, so it will be S1, S2, and S3. Okay, so you're going to introduce these 3 slack variables, which are S1, S2, and S3. Okay, if you finish writing that, now listen. So from your function, you'll have to write your slack variables. Okay. So when you, this will become your canonical form. Now you're going to write it in your standard form. Okay. A mathematical formulation of your LPP, which has been given, that is your canonical form. Okay. And from there, if you're going to make it to a standard form in your simplex method, what it will be is, you will take it as max Z is equal to 4x1 plus 10x2 plus 0s1. You're introducing your slack variables. You will take it as 0s1, 0s2 plus 0s3. This is the way you are going to introduce, because you don't have any value for your slack variable there. Okay, in your constraints, but you will take it as 1, 1, 1. Okay, so how you have to take is, for your first constraint, you will take it as s1. All other s2, s3, you will take it as 0. Okay, whereas for your second equation, you will take your S1 to be 0, S2 to be 1. So how do you write that? You will write it as 2x1 plus x2 plus S1 plus 0s2 plus 0s3 is equal to 50. Okay. Similarly, your second constraint, 2x1 plus 5x2 plus, I've given for your first equation, first inequality S1. So in your second inequality, you will take 0s1. This you will take it as S2, and this is 0s3, which is equal to 100. Okay. Similarly, for the third inequality, 2x1 plus 3x2, you will take 0s1 plus 0s2 plus s3, you will take it as 1 and equal to 90. And then your condition, x1, x2, x1, x2, s1, s2, s3, all are greater than or equal to 0. It has to be greater than or equal to 0. That restrictions definitely you have to write. Okay. So I will repeat it again. So from your canonical form, in the question for 2 marks and all, they can ask you. So this is your canonical form. Change it to standard form in the simplex method. If at all they're asking it like that, how many ever inequalities you've got, Accordingly, you'll have to introduce your slack variables. Okay. So slack variables in your objective function, it will be 0. You don't have any values. But here we are introducing it for the constraint because we have to get your minimum value. Okay, that optimal solution. For that, we are introducing this slack variables. So for your first equation, you will take it as S1. All other terms, you will take it as 0. Second equation, S2, you will take it as 1. All other terms, you will take it as 0. And similarly, for the third equation, S3, you will take it, and all other terms, you will take it as 0. Your slack variables. Okay. After this step, okay, any doubts you have got? Your standard form. So this is how you're going to formulate your standard form. This is your third step according to the procedure. Okay. Any doubts you have got? Because till here, introducing of this standard form, it is 2 marks. Okay. So after that, what you'll have to find out is you have to find out your initial basic feasible solution. Okay. After writing this standard form, you're going to find out the initial basic feasible solution. Okay, you're going to find out the initial basic feasible solution. In this initial basic feasible solution, what is it is, you will take your x1 equal to 0, which is equal to x2. Okay, in your initial basic feasible solution, you will take your x1, how many ever variables you are having, you will take that variables equal to 0. Okay, you will you will make it equal to 0. Don't mute yourself. So you will make your variables which have been given in your initial table, you will take it to be 0 and find out your value of S1, S2 and S3. You will take it in this equation. You will take it in this equation. So right till there. Okay. So your x1 is equal to 0, x2 is equal to 0. So all these terms will become 0. You'll be having from the first equation, S1 is equal to 50. From your second equation, you'll have all these terms are 0. So you'll have S2 is equal to 100. And from the third equation, S3 is equal to 90. Okay. So these are the values when your initial basic feasible solution has been taken, where your x1 is x1 and x2 is equal to 0. Okay. We are taking into that consideration and getting the values of S1, S2, S3. Okay. Write it down. So this will be your first step. Okay. After that, we have to draw the tabular column. Till here, did you understand? It's very important. If you don't understand, please ask me. Did you understand? Till here? Okay, we will go on to tabular column. Have you all finished writing? If you finished writing, tell me so that I will draw the tabular column. Yes, you finished writing? So we will draw the tabular column. Okay. So after writing your standard form, you have to draw the initial table. Okay, whatever has been given, with that we are going to write the initial table. Okay, initial table will be your first table form. Okay, in your initial table, you already know, I've given you in your step 4. What and all is there? Your CB, YB, XB, and then your X1, X2. Here you have got 2 variables. Then you have got slack variables S1, S2, S3, and then your min ratio. Then your ratio. Okay, your ratio. Your ratio is nothing but your minimum of your XB by AIR. So this is your tabular column. You have to know it by heart. Okay, and top you have your CJ. Okay, your CJ. This will be your tabular column. Now everyone please listen, then you can write it down. Okay, so that is your standard form, and this is your tabular column. Okay, so what is the CJ? CJ is in your objective function. Okay, here it is your maximization. Your maximization, your corresponding coefficient you will be writing. Okay, your corresponding coefficient of your x1 in your objective function is 4. Your x2 is 10. Your s1, s2, s3 will be 0. Okay, your maximization function. What is your coefficient of that value? Your coefficient of your variables, you will be writing it here. That is your CJ. You can write it down and keep. Okay, because when you take it and see it in the next time, you won't understand what is these values. Okay, CJ is nothing but the coefficient of your objective function. Okay, that coefficient I've written it on top. Okay, next what you'll have to do is your coefficient of your slack variables. This YB we will write it down first. YB is nothing but you're going to write whatever variables you've taken. Okay, we have introduced 3 slack variables. That's 3 slack variables you will write it. That will be your YB. Okay, slack variables is also called as your basic variables. Okay, whatever basic variables you have taken, that basic variables you will write it in your YB. Okay, and the corresponding objective function of the slack variables. Okay, objective functions corresponding slack variables that you will write it in column CB. So that will be 0. Okay, because we know that your values of your slack variables, we take it as 0. So it will be 0. I will repeat it again. Your CJ is nothing but your coefficient of your objective function. Okay, your x1's coefficient, x2's coefficient, slack variables coefficient. That will be your CJ. Then YB is nothing but whatever slack variables you have introduced, that you will write it here. Okay. Now XB is nothing but you have found out your initial basic feasible solutions value for your S1, S2 and S3. They are found out to be S1 to be 50, S2 to be 100, S3 to be 90. So that will be your XB. Okay, that will become your S1, S2, S3's slack variables value, initial basic feasible solution. That value you will substitute it here. Okay, that will be your XB. Next, what you have to do for your first equation which you've got, write the values here. Okay, you're going to write the values. So for that x1, it will be 2, 1, s1 is 1, 0, 0. I'm taking the coefficient of this term. Okay, first equation. Next, second equation, if I take, again it is 2, 5, 0, 1, 0. Then 2, 3, 0, 0, 1. I've just written the coefficients of all the coefficient value of all the terms. Okay. After this, what you'll have to do is you have to find out your ZJ minus CJ. Okay. Your ZJ minus CJ. Your ZJ minus CJ is nothing but you will be multiplying it with your CJ. Okay. Your ZJ, how you'll have to find out is your column, whatever coefficient you've got, that coefficient into your value, your XB value. So since it is 0, everything will become 0. 0 into 50 is 0. This into 0 is 0. So this minus you don't have any function there. So that will become 0. Okay. And for
One
all
more
other
thing,
terms, yes, ma, tell me.
one more time explain, ma'am.
One more time you want. Okay, okay. So how you have to find out your ZJ is you will be multiplying the CB into XB. That will be your ZJ. That also you can write down and keep. Okay. Your ZJ, how you have to find out is whatever term. Okay, whatever value you're going to find out. This value, if you're going to find out, it will be CB into X1. Okay, your CB into X1. If you're going to find out for this value, CB into X2, that will be your ZJ minus your CJ. Okay, now since your CB is 0, anything if you multiply, it will become 0. Okay, anything if you multiply, your ZJ will become 0. So you'll be having only your CJ. Okay, so when you do it for your X1 also, since everything is 0, that will become 0 minus 4. So your value here will be minus 4. Again, if you do it for x2, all these term into your 0 will become 0, minus 10, and the other terms will be 0. Okay, wow. Your ZZ is nothing but your CB into whatever value you're going to find out. Okay, whatever term you're going to find out, that you will multiply minus your CJ. CJ is your coefficient of your objective function. Okay, so directly you can write that negative value here. Okay, have you understood? Yes or no? Yes? What happened?
One more time.
One more time you want.
How
Okay.
we are calculating
So
the CB column?
how do you calculate? Okay. This ZJ is actually how you'll have to find out is you'll multiply your CB column, okay, your CB column into your XB column. Okay. For this term, if you're going to find out, okay, you're going to multiply it with this. Anything into 0 will become 0. Okay, you're going to get it 0. Okay, and then you're going to minus it with minus Cj. You don't have any function, you don't have your max z value itself, so directly you can write it as 0. So that's how I'm getting this term to be 0. Okay, similarly for your x1, if you do 0 into 2, 0 into 2, 0 into 2, again that becomes 0. Okay, the whole value will become 0. 0 plus 0 plus 0. Okay, and then it is minus Cj. So minus Cj, if you see, minus 4. Okay, so I write it as minus 4. Similarly, for all the term, for x2 also, if you see 1 into 0, 5 into 0, 3 into 0. Okay, it is 0 minus your Cj, which is 10. So I have written it as minus. Okay, when you do iteration and iteration, you will understand. Okay, this is your initial table. How did you understand? And all of the terms, since it is 0, I have directly written it as 0. Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, when we do a lot of problems, more problems when we do, you will understand. Okay, this is your initial table. So this is or directly what you can do, your objective function, you can write it with your negative sign because it is minus Cj. Always your Zj will be this term, which will be 0 only. Your slack variables always it will be 0 only. Okay, for your initial table, it will be 0. You can directly write with your negative sign. Okay. Yes or no? So this is your initial
Yes,
table.
ma'am.
Next, what you'll have to do is you have to see your most negative value. In which term? You have to see it in your Zj minus Cj, your most negative term. Your most negative term, if you see in your Zj minus Cj, it is minus 10. So your step 6 we are going into. Okay, your step 6 we are going. Your step 6, what is it? You have to see your most negative value in your Zj minus Cj. So that is your entering variable and the corresponding column will become your pivot column. Okay, so whatever is your most negative value, that will become your entering variable. So your entering variable for your next table will become x2. Okay, and this column will become your pivot column. This column will become your pivot column or your key column. Okay, did you understand? I will repeat it
Yes, ma'am.
again. You have to see in your Zj minus Cj your most negative value, okay? That most negative values column will become your key column or pivot column, okay? That will become your key column or your pivot column. And this is your entering variable. This x2 will become the entering variable in your next table, okay? Next, what you'll have to do is you have to find out the ratio, okay? Your step 7. You have to find out your ratio. Your ratio is nothing but your XB. Your XB divided by your corresponding column value. Okay. So that will be 50 divided by 1. This is your column. Okay. So 50 divided by 1, which will be 50. Then 100 divided by 5. 100 divided by 5 is 20. And then 90 divided by 3. 90 divided by 3 will be 30. Okay, so you have to find out the column. After finding out the column, you'll find out the ratio. This is the procedure. Okay, you don't have any other terms like this. You have to first find out your most negative value, find out the column. After finding out the column, with that column, what you have to do, you have to find out your ratio. So that ratio, how you'll find out, xb divided by that column. Okay, so divided by 1, 100 divided by 5, 90 divided by 3. So we have found out the ratio. After finding out the ratio, you have to see which is your minimum value in that ratio. Which is your minimum value? This 20. 20 is your minimum value. Whichever is your minimum value, that will be the row. Okay, that minimum value wherever you've got, that will become, that row is called your pivot row or your key row. Okay, here your minimum value is 20. So this will become the row, okay, which is your pivot row or your key row. Okay, so this is your key column or your pivot column, and this will become the pivot row or your key row. Why? Because this is the minimum value of this when you find out the ratio. Now the intersecting point, which is your intersecting point, your pivot column and your pivot row is intersecting here. Okay, so this 5 will become your pivot element. That will become your pivot element. Understood how you got your 5? It is the intersection value of your pivot column and your pivot row. That will become the pivot element. Did you understand the initial table? You have to draw the table. Okay. You have to write all these values. These values and all you understood, isn't it? Then you have to find out your Zj minus Cj. Directly what you do is write your Cj's value with your negative sign in the Zj minus Cj. Because always your slack variables will be 0 for your initial table. I'm repeating it again. It is only for your initial table. Your slack variables will be 0. Okay. So you will write it as 0 and directly you can write it as minus value. Okay. After writing that, you have to see your most negative value in your Zj minus Cj. Whichever is your most negative value, that will become the entering variable. Okay, that corresponding variable will become your entering variable. That will become your pivot column. Okay, next you have to find out the ratio. Okay, that will be your step 7. You're going to find out the leaving variable. So step 7 is nothing but xb divided by your column. Whatever column you've got, that column you will be dividing it. Okay, the corresponding column only you will be dividing. So 50 divided by 1, 100 divided by 5, 90 divided by 3. Okay, after dividing, you'll have to see which is your minimum value. In this 3, which is the minimum value. That minimum value, that row will become your pivot row or your key row. After drawing that key row or your pivot row, the intersecting point, intersecting value will become your pivot element. Write it down. Write it down. Since it is not greater than or equal to 0, we have to go to the next table. Okay? Write it down. Total pivot element. Now we have to find out a new pivot equation. Okay. Next, you'll have to find out a new pivot equation. So your new pivot equation is nothing but your old pivot equation divided by your pivot element. Divided by your pivot element. That will be your pivot equation. This is your formula. Okay, you're gonna find out your new pivot equation. Your new pivot equation is nothing but your pivot row or your pivot column, whatever it is. This will be. Okay. this pivot equation, for this, you're going to find out your new pivot equation. So how you have to do is, you have to write your whole pivot equation first. Your whole pivot equation divided by 5. I'll do it directly. Your pivot element is 5. I will do it directly, or you want me to do in steps? Yes, I will do it with this itself. Okay, so it will become 100 divided by 5. Okay, 2 divided by 5, 5 divided by 5, 0 divided by 5, 1 divided by 5, and 0 divided by 5. Okay, so I'm dividing throughout by your pivot element, which is 5. Okay, so that equation will become 100 by 5 is 20, 2 by 5, 1, 0, 1 by 5, and 0. Okay, so this is your new pivot equation. Now we have found out your new pivot equation. This new pivot equation, with this only we will find out all other equations. Okay, you have found out your new pivot equation. So from this, we have to find out your new equation for all the terms. So first we will do for your S1 equation, new S1 equation. Or else first we will write the formula. Your new equation is equal to your old equation minus your corresponding column coefficient into your new pivot equation. Into your new pivot equation. Into your new pivot equation. Okay, so now I'm going to do it for your new S1 equation. Okay, for your new S1 equation, what I do, first I write the old equation. It is 50, 2, 1, 1, 0, 0. Okay, it is 50, 2, 1, 1, 0, 0. When you write it, to be very careful. Okay, minus your corresponding column coefficient. Your corresponding column coefficient is 1. Okay, your corresponding column coefficient is 1 into new pivot equation. Your new pivot equation is this. So into 1, if you put 20, 2 by 5, 1, 0, 1 by 5, and 0. Okay, that is your corresponding column coefficient. This is your corresponding column coefficient, your 1, into your new pivot equation. New pivot equation is this. Okay, now I'm going to do your minus. I'm going to subtract it. So when you subtract it, what you have? So you'll be having 50 minus 20, 30. This will be 2 minus 2 by 5, 10 minus 2, 8 by 5, 8 by 5. This will become 0, 1, minus 1 by 5, and 0. Do you understand how you're getting your new S1 equation? You will be writing your old equation minus, you will multiply your corresponding column coefficient into new pivot equation. Your new pivot equation is this. Okay. Similarly, your S2 we have already found out, that is your pivot equation. Now you have to find out your S3. Find out your S3. Similarly, find out your S3. I will rub here. You're finding out your new S3 equation. First, write your old S3 equation, 90, 2, 3, 0, 0, 1. Okay, old equation I've written. Next, what you'll have to do, corresponding column coefficient into your new pivot equation. So 3 into that you'll have to multiply. 3 into 20 is 60. 3 into 2 by 5 is 6 by 5. 6. So then 3, 0, 3 by 5, and then 0. Again, minus it. You'll be having minus it. Okay. So 90 minus 60, 30. 2 minus 6 by 5. So it will be 4 by 5. 0, 0, minus 3 by 5, and 1. Okay. So this is your new S3 equation. This will become your new S3 equation. Similarly, find out for Zj minus Cj also. Any doubts? If you've got doubts, please tell me. You understood how you're finding out your S1, S3 equation. Next, we have to do it for your Zj minus Cj. So new Zj minus Cj's equation. So first write this equation 0, minus 4, minus 10, 0, 0, and 0. Here your column coefficient is minus 10. You're going to multiply it with your new pivot equation. So it will be, when you multiply, you'll have minus 200 minus 10 into 2. So it will be minus 20 by 5. So that will become minus 4, minus 10, minus 10 by 5, which will become minus 2. Correct? Minus 10, 0, then minus 2, then 0. Again here I'm going to subtract. So here it will become plus, 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 plus. Okay. And here it is negative and negative. Okay. So here it will become 200. Here it will become 0, 0, 0, 2, and 0. So this is your new equation for Zj minus Cj. In the Zj minus Cj, you're getting positive values. So whatever we have got is your optimal solution. Okay. So this is your optimal solution. But before that, you have to draw the tableau column. Have you all written it till here? Yes or no? Yes. Have you drawn it? Have you written till here?
Ma'am,
Tell me, tell me.
new pivot equation வந்து S3க்கும் S3க்கு எப்படி மேம் வந்திருக்கு 60 6/5 அதெல்லாம்
You have to see your column. In your column, the tableau column, no? In your tableau column, you have your tableau
Yes,
column,
ma'am.
isn't it? That tableau column, in
Yes,
that
ma'am.
equation, S3 equation, see that column value. 3 you have, isn't it? That is your
Yes, ma'am.
corresponding column coefficient. With that 3, you multiply this new pivot equation.
Okay.
If you multiply 3, it will become 60, 6 by 5, 3, 0, 3 by 5, and 0. Okay,
Okay, ma'am.
the same way you will do it for Zj minus Cj also. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.